Welcome to Ridgewood Talks. Through this podcast, we will be introducing you to some of the leaders and legends in our village. We'll keep you updated about fascinating local events. We'll dig into the town's hot topics and so much more. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Jeanne Johnson, the founder of Ridgewood Talks and Ridgewood Walks. The goal of these initiatives is to create a kinder, more connected, and more vibrant community. I'm thrilled to be hosting this podcast with my good friend and all-around wonderful guy, Jordan Kaufman. We look forward to meeting with you weekly and hearing your thoughts on who and what you'd like to learn about in our beautiful hometown. For now, be kind, do good, and enjoy this episode. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to Ridgewood Talks. As you know, our goal is to keep you updated on the town's hottest topics and fascinating events. And boy, do we have a great show for you today. You know, one of the things that makes Ridgewood so special is its beautiful old homes. And at last count, at least 14 of them were listed on the National Register of Historic Places. But let's be honest, there are a lot of charming homes around town that could use a little TLC. And if you've ever tackled a home renovation in Ridgewood, you know that that is no small feat. So that brings us to today's episode. A Ridgewood renovation that didn't just get a fresh coat of paint, it got national attention. Bhothinard and Peter Field bought their 1930s Colonial Revival back in 2019, and they loved the house and the location. It's just steps from the school, but like so many of us, they figured they'd get around to fixing it up eventually. Well, eventually arrived when their boiler decided to call it quits. That's when Rutherford-based builder Zack Detmore and Detmore Home Improvements got involved. And thanks to him and his business partner and wife, Camille, so did this old house. Yep, that's the long-running, legendary home improvement show. And today, we're getting the inside scoop. Joining us remotely, we've got Zack and Camille. And then in the studio, we have Kay and Peter right here in the studio with us. So guys, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you here, and I can't wait to dig in and find out all the inside scoop of what happened when you were filming this terrific show. I've watched all the episodes, and so our viewers know, the last episode has not aired yet. So I just encourage you all just to go find it on YouTube and watch every episode from beginning to end. So to start off, Kay and Peter, I want to ask, first of all, how long have you lived in Ridgewood?
So I've been here since we got married in 2018. Peter has actually been here a little bit longer.
Yeah, it was more like 2014 that I moved here.
Yeah, so then you lived in one house first, and then you went on and you bought this house and then moved again during the renovation, right?
Yeah, so we were in the Woodside neighborhood, and then we bought this house, and then we actually moved back to the Woodside neighborhood for the 9 months that we were out of this house, which was fun.
Yeah, I bet that was. Your neighbors were probably happy to have you back, right?
Yeah, and it's a nice side of town as well.
It really is. Yeah, I like it. So in the beginning, with our first episode, you mentioned that you didn't really proactively seek being on this old house, but you wanted to be part of the bigger story. So tell me how this all evolved. How did it all take place?
So I actually went back to our emails just to kind of trace the timelines. We started working with our architect, Jeff Jordan, about 3 years ago. Last month, basically. So in the, thick of being in the middle of COVID lockdown and all of that, we knew that we had wanted to do something with the house, but just had put it off, like you said. And you're sitting around with, everybody's home all the time. And we thought, well, let's just sort of think about what we're going to do with the house. So we started working with Jeff in early 2022. And it took us actually quite a while to kind of settle on the plans that we ended up executing. And about a year after we started talking to Jeff, after a few revisions of the plans, actually, he said to us, hey, would you be interested in talking to this contractor? Because we'd talked to a few, we'd actually gotten bids from a few already. And chose not to go forward with them. And he said, I'm working with Zack on another project, really like him, on time, on budget. And there's this sort of idea that maybe, this could be featured on This Old House. So Peter actually is more familiar with the show, having grown up watching it. I did not. So his response was a little bit more informed than mine was, actually.
So, Peter, can you tell us a little bit about the filming tell us that whole process from start to finish. What was that like for you guys?
Well, it was first, I grew up every Sunday afternoon watching This Old House on
with
PBS.
Bob Vila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the way through, it was just its institution. And then I watched that sitcom that was based on it in the 90s as well. That was sort of part of the impetus behind the Home Improvement show, I think.
Oh, that's so
the whole,
funny.
This Old House sort of legacy that was there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really fun to have that suggestion come up. And I work in marketing and advertising, and so this kind of TV feature isn't mysterious to me. And actually, when Jeff first said it, he said, "Would you be interested in a TV show?" And my initial response was, "Which show?"
Yeah, right.
Because we're not real
we're not like the real married couple of New Jersey, like the Real Housewives.
Yeah, and we're not into like the blindfolded reveal of choices we didn't make or that kind of thing.
Right.
He said This Old House. I was really excited too, because it's also about the work that gets done in the house. Right. It's about craft. It's about legacy. It's about the innovative solutions that people come up with for adaptive reuse of projects. And that was exciting to me to think about. So and separately to that, we had a great experience in talking with Zack and Camille about the project. So both of those things were simultaneously true. The show was interested when Zack suggested it, and they came out to meet us, which was fun to just meet the producers from that show and walk around the project. They, talked with us about the logistics of doing it. We all kind of agreed that that's something we'd move forward with. And then they said, great, as soon as we can get, the crew there for the start of the before episode, will get started. But our boiler had died in September of that previous year.
Gosh.
So Kay was really inventive and adventurous in getting us amazing space heaters that I learned to not blow 15 amp fuses with. And we spent like 4 months heating the house daily with space heaters, waiting for that first episode to be shot.
So that was a real sacrifice. I mean, it really had to be.
It was a journey.
Yeah. It was a journey.
Because the words that the plumber used were catastrophic failure.
Okay, well.
So we thought, and we were not going to replace it with another furnace.
Yeah,
right? We already had these plans and what have you. So, and just to go back to your question about how this came about, I tell people all the time it was Zack's idea, not ours.
And he's the one that twisted your arm. I gotcha.
And it was fun. I mean, I will say, this is having earlier in my career done some work in TV, and then having been on shoots a bunch in the rest of my career. This is a really fun group of people.
It seems like
roll in like a little theater group. Everybody down to the key grip is family on This Old House is what it feels like. And they're really lovely. It looked like that too.
Yeah. I mean, it just looked like everybody just really loved being there, and that you guys were so welcoming and in everything. Oh God, I can't wait to get into the details, because there's so many of them. But first of all, I'm going to tell you the very first thing that jumped out at me on the very first episode. You walked into your office, and I don't know. I tried to count how many guitars I saw, and then I saw an electronic keyboard, and I'm like, wait a second. Are you a musician?
So by training more than practice these days, but I was really active in owning a small indie record label about 15 years ago.
Wow.
Stepped away from music for about 10 years, and in the last 5 years have actually really gotten back into music production for a classical pianist named John MacArthur.
Okay.
So that's been fun.
Okay, so more importantly, how come nobody tapped you to be in Dad's Night? Or have they? I don't know.
I was in a couple of Dad's Night videos, but
were?
unfortunately, Dad's night, like performance night, was always during South by Southwest.
Okay.
So,
and
like
you're
a
down
couple
there.
of us
I got
who
you.
worked in advertising, we always had
You
to
had
be down in Austin,
Yeah.
when Dad's night was happening. So I've been a couple of the videos from.
Okay,
back
so
when my
what
daughter
about
was in house.
Jamboree now? What do we got to do? Because I think
Oh.
you have a teenage daughter, yeah?
We just got done traveling a ton last year for work and for family and doing a renovation project. So
Right.
we weren't able to do Jamboree this year.
Okay.
And our daughter's graduating.
Okay,
So-
perfect. You have to do it. You really do. You know, and I'm not joking. You have to do it because then once you've done it once, then you can be in the alumni and you can always be in the band. So, but I highly recommend it. It is a once in a lifetime experience that I think both of you would really enjoy. But you in particular, you could be in the orchestra. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Well, shout out to our neighbors, the Mundis, who were pitching us on it last night.
Who is it?
The Mundis on our block.
Oh,
were
well,
also
good. I'm
pitching
glad
us
I'm
last
not the
night.
only one. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I want to know now, were there any issues during the taping, like anything that happened that was unexpected, like, oh man, this pushed things back, a couple of weeks, a couple of days, whatever?
I mean, I think the thing that we had a weekly Friday morning call with Zack and Camille, followed by a weekly production call with two producers from This Old House, Chris and Sarah. So we kept on top of things collectively, really diligently to try to collectively get us to the finish line on time. In the middle of that, there's a shell game with time that I think everybody was always playing. So sometimes Zack and Camille will be like, oh, you've got about 2 weeks to decide on this or that or this. And then something changes and it's like, oh, you've got till Monday to decide on that. So, I mean,
well, at least they give you a couple of days and they did say, could you just let me know in an hour? Right.
Yeah, it wasn't like that, but we were all, I think we felt like we were all in it together. So those are the choices that need to be made. So I think it was a lot more of, rather than things being pushed back so much that were surprising, we just had to play a shell game with time for like 9 months because
9 months,
things shift on a project.
Actually, I have to say 9 months is a relatively short amount of time to do this. So it sounds like everybody was really doing their job. However, Camille, this one's for you, and I'm going to quote directly. Kay told us, and I quote, Camille kept the trains running on time and we would have fallen apart without her. So how do you feel about that?
Oh, that's so kind of you, Kay. I just do my best to nag everybody without nagging them too much.
Well, you made a cameo. I saw your cameo. And I have to say, this is not even a joke. When I saw you, I was like, oh my gosh, she is so organized. I mean, what did they call you? Shipping and receiving. They were big,
Yes.
right? So you had all these shelves with all the boxes that you opened up, and then you had to make sure that what you ordered, right? Tell us about that process.
Yeah, so we want to make sure on all our renovations that all of our finishes are on site before we actually need them, before the trades need them, because what always happens inevitably is that something is not the right item, or it's missing a piece, or it actually isn't going to fit as we had thought it would be able to work. So we have to look through everything, and even though it seems tedious in the moment, it just saves so much time because when our plumber is there ready to install a faucet and it's the wrong faucet, then that could be 2 weeks till he could come back to put it in again. So that's the purpose of that.
As somebody who has had some work done on their house, oh God, having somebody like you would be so helpful. That is so great. So Zack, I want to hear about your business. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, where you work out of and what you do. So if anyone watching or listening to this episode wants a really famous team of contractors to come and do their house, tell us all about you.
Sure. So yeah, I'm a glorified carpenter at this point, I would say. Just did it from a very young age, and gradually as we started doing projects, the clients would add scope. So I started, very low on the totem pole, and then did my first bathroom, did my first kitchen, and then it was first addition, first, 6-figure project, and it's just sort of grown very slowly over the last, I don't even know now how long, in 15 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And when Camille had a different professional career in television before we joined forces, and we sort of decided, because my career was in New Jersey, we would stick with that when we had kids, rather than me leaving my career. So she joined, I guess, 5 years ago roughly. And I was always sort of a struggling business owner, and since she joined, it became sort of more of an entity where every email didn't start with "sorry for the delay." Um,
Now
and
they start with thanks for your patience.
now they start with "thanks for your patience." But it's so that's really allowed me to sort of focus on the work I love, which is complex details. And um, as someone who started as a tradesperson, I'm really focused on what's wrong with the industry. When I started, there's a lot of stigma around being a tradesperson. It's not considered a first choice career. And I think because of that, we see a lot of mediocrity in the way uh, homes are built, because it's not attracting the right people. We're not compensating tradespeople fairly. So my sort of goal is to through social media at first, and now television and podcasting, sort of um, get the word out that it's a very fulfilling career, and also it's worth hiring people who do things correctly, because shortcuts typically cost you more in the long term. And it's in homes like Peter and Kay's, we work in mostly older homes. These homes have lasted hundreds of years, and a lot of times the reason we go over budget is because we're dismantling or taking apart things that were done poorly, and fixing those things because people were more focused on sort of the glitzy finishes like tile and refrigerators, rather than focusing on maybe replacing that pipe in the wall that's rotted out, or that insulation. So yeah, I love doing carpentry, but I also am trying to educate people on maybe how they could do it a little better next time, and that really dovetails nicely into this old house.
Oh, for sure. And I have to say, as a viewer of the show and watching your work, I look at you as a real artisan. I mean, you are a craftsman. I don't think of you as a carpenter. I think of you as an artist. And I think that your partnership with Camille is really amazing, that the two of you do a lot of things together. You are in business together, you're married, and you have children. So that speaks volumes about your personalities and how you like to get things done. So I really admire you. So for anyone, again, who's watching this episode or listening to this episode, what is the actual official name of your business, and how can people get in touch with you?
So it's Detmore Home Improvements, and typically the best way to get in touch with us is just to go to detmore.com and fill out. There's like a questionnaire that pings an email directly to Camille, and that's how you can get in touch with us. We focus our work in sort of Rutherford, Montclair, Glen Ridge is where we've developed our business over the years, but obviously we have we work all over the place.
Well, and now you have a footprint in Ridgewood, so.
That's right,
And
exactly.
It's a very exciting footprint at that. So I want to know, how closely did you work with Jeff on the architectural details and things like that?
Honestly, pretty much not at all. I mean, once we started construction and there were site conditions that he couldn't see when he was developing the plans, then we would provide him insight, feedback, and photographs. But Jeff is an extremely skilled architect with a clear vision. It's always nice to work with architects who have a look, and Jeff definitely has a plan from start to finish. And as someone who's built several of his projects, it's not always immediately obvious until I'm done the project what he was trying to build. So I sort of just trust him with what is on the plans, and he's just incredibly skilled.
We would second that. Jeff, we went to Jeff because we saw him featured in an article in the Times. Actually, it was about homes that had been renovated that had to be sort of re-renovated because now everybody was working from home. Right? So it was a space in Jersey City that he had designed, and we had reached out to him. Jeff has a very modern aesthetic. But he obviously works in the Northeast, so he has to deal with a lot of older homes. He's done row houses in Jersey City. We saw a picture of a house that he had done in Montclair that was similar to ours in that it looked, more colonial from the front. And what they did was they added an addition to the back that was super modern. Glass, wood,
Beautiful.
lots of space, right? Really airy, which is really kind of what we wanted to do.
Yeah,
'cause
and
we
that's kind of
didn't-
what they accomplished with yours, right?
Right. And we didn't want to be, kind of we knew that it would look different, but we didn't want to stick out like a sore
Right,
thumb.
right.
And he had put these one of the windows in the back addition is about 8 feet wide.
Yeah.
And the others, somewhere over 5 feet. And he drew the plans, and we thought, okay, well, that looks nice.
Yeah. Wow, he's talented.
But until they went in, and actually until Zack's team took the film off the windows, we didn't really understand the impact that had.
And then now you have that beautiful water feature, which we're going to go into in a minute because I'm super excited about that. But first, I want to know who submitted the all of the paperwork and all the permits to the Village of Ridgewood. Was that a Jeff deal or?
Jeff and Zack. So Jeff has a series of submissions that he did on his side, and then Zack had a series of permits that he pulled as well.
It was actually all smoke and mirrors, Peter. I didn't actually pull a permit for that job.
Oh, snap.
I just, you know why I brought that up? Because our
How many
village
listeners are there on this show?
Let me tell you something. The village council members and the village manager are big fans of this show. So that's why I brought this question up.
All
You
permits.
guys,
were
no.
as
It's
expected.
always well. No, but I really do. I want to know, if there were any hiccups with that process and, if there's anything any kind of advice that you could give to the Village of Ridgewood that might be helpful to that process, or did you have any problems with it?
Moving into it, I'll be honest. We had heard that Ridgewood in general was difficult, and
Yeah.
when we started, we met with the building inspector, and the building inspector is a fan of fine home building. He's extremely well read. Both of them are, and that is peculiar, and you wouldn't think that, but in general, our lead carpenter, Kaylin, is more educated in terms of building science and what modern building trends are than the building inspectors that work for most municipalities. And that's almost always been the case with the exception of Ridgewood. So standards are high, and so there's going to be frustration on the homeowner side because they might be getting the impression from their contractor that the village is being difficult for no reason. But the ethics behind this is houses in the United States in particular, but in New Jersey, for being a very wealthy state, it's pathetic what we build on average. The building code is in place and we meet the code, but that really means we're building as poorly as they will let us build.
Oh, that
right?
is really discouraging.
When we build a house. And we've had really thoughtful conversations with both building inspectors and the plumbing inspector, and they're trying to keep standards not ridiculously high. We're not trying to ask people to meet some German standard for passive house, but slightly higher or slightly better than average, which would be below average if we were in New York State or Massachusetts, for example. It's important to remember, if you're listening to this, that there is no bar for entry to build homes in New Jersey. You pull an insurance policy, there's no test, there's no education, there's no support from the state. You can just get some basic information pulled and go build a $5 million house.
Oh my gosh.
With no experience whatsoever. So we started, there's always going to be learning curves with the new building department, but in general, it was a really good experience. And keep fighting the good fight out there, Paul. Like, you're doing a great job, and I'm glad you're trying to trying to keep standards high. So yeah, no real notes on the town.
Well, I got to say thank you so much for that. That's really encouraging to hear because I don't know. I mean, I've done minor things to my house and they've come out, the inspectors have been terrific, but I have heard things that, they're not so terrific, that they hold the bar up really high. So I love that explanation. So thank you for that. A couple of the things that you talked about were the innovation and a lot of the things that maybe some of the inspectors don't know about. So that brings me to my next question. You were very lucky that you got to travel. Where did you go? To Switzerland and to Maine? And was it you went, Zack, right?
Yeah.
And Camille, did you get to tag along?
I didn't tag along. Nope. I it was running projects from home.
Someone's got to
gotcha.
be responsible while I'm gallivanting
Yeah,
around.
sure. Somebody has to go to Switzerland. Why not you? So what were those experiences like?
Oh, they're fantastic. I mean, the reason we went to Switzerland is because I'll be vague here, but in New Jersey and much of the country, it is required by code to put something on your house to keep water out, right? That's below the siding. And the thing we've deemed industry standard is basically a sheet of plastic that they have stamped holes in.
Oh boy.
Or it's a woven fabric. So you could take that product that's white, right, and lay it on a table and dump a cup of water on it and put a paper towel under it, and water is going to go through it eventually.
So it's really effective.
It's really effective, and a lot of times you'll see it's not detailed properly, so you'll see a house, maybe bits of it are sort of blown around, and it's not really treated as the thing that's separating your indoor air quality, what you're breathing when you're sleeping, from the outside air, all that brake dust, all that pollen. That's the first line of defense, yet we're not taping it properly. And then what do? We put it on the house and we shoot hundreds of nails through it. So then we've just penetrated it thousands and thousands of times. So the product we used is from Switzerland. It's a product that's pretty common in passive houses, which is sort of a high building standard, but that's sort of the basic code in Germany. So they ship a lot of this product to Germany, but basically it's thicker, it's tougher, and it's sticky. So if you put a nail through it, that stickiness kind of seals around the nail.
That makes sense.
And Peter and Kay, when I first walked into their house, they had air purifiers everywhere, and I could tell that was a priority for them. So, I recommended this product. I told them it was a little bit more expensive. It's a little more unconventional in our market, but they were totally game for that. And that's one of the biggest gifts they gave to Camille and I, was really their willingness to spend money on things that will make the quality of their life better, but it won't impress their friends.
Yeah.
Because the friends won't see it.
Right. And we also had no insulation whatsoever, which is what we found after the demo. So that's what took Zack to Maine.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the walls came down and there was air between what we saw and between us and the shingles. Yeah.
That's amazing. So no wonder you needed so many space heaters when the boiler went
Yeah,
out.
it's funny because people sometimes you see comments on social media or whatnot, like, why did you get rid of that cedar siding? And all that.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
Like, well, there was nothing behind that.
Yeah.
And in order to just like keep warmth in the house and
Yeah.
cool air in the house, you've got to.
So I'm curious to know, how did that trip to Switzerland come about then? Was that something that you suggested to the producers, or did the producers say to you, let's do it?
I just threw it out in one of those Friday meetings, and I didn't really think it would happen, and it happened. And it's a very cool company. It's a great product, and we also got to benefit from going to some trade schools and learning about how they educate the trades there. You know, they think of carpentry, plumbing, painting, roofing all as real careers that take real training, and their standards are substantially higher, and their citizens are trained to understand that a house is a legacy.
Yes.
That you're leaving to generations to come, and when you renovate, you do it thoughtfully, and you focus on doing things correctly with longevity in mind, and that's peculiar in New Jersey, right? I think we like to throw around this term starter home, which implies that the home is consumable. You're only buying it because you can't afford something nicer, and you're going to try and just fix it for as cheap as possible before moving on to something better. And that sort of commoditization of houses is suboptimal, I would say.
Well, I would
So it
guess
was cool
that
to learn
going
that.
going there, you probably got a lot of validation, and it probably was really empowering for you to come back and know that you're armed with this new information and these new products that you can, help people, like you said, preserve their home and make it last forever, or at least longer than what the prefab homes are that are being made around here. So I want to go into now we talked about protecting the exterior of the house, and now I know that you did this beautiful soundproofing. So is it working?
It is working, yeah. So this is where I said to Zack regularly, thank you for your patience, because I was like, I do not want to wake up in the morning because someone was grinding coffee.
Yeah.
We put an addition on that's a kitchen below,
right,
and a bedroom above. And either of us, for any reason, could be up before the other, or might have a guest that wants to be able to just come downstairs and have freedom in that sense, and yeah, so the soundproofing is a big difference, and we don't hear grinding coffee in the morning.
Well, can you smell it though?
Yes, but that's always welcome.
Okay, that's good then. So I want to know, so one of the things is, you have the historical elements of the home, and then you brought in all of these modern pieces, and that would be, that door that you made, keep telling you I'm going to get to that. But so it's just such a beautiful mix. What are some of the things that you appreciate most about how they were able to configure the old with the new?
Light, I think, is one of the just the biggest life quality difference between living there before and living there now is the ability, when it's 20 degrees, to stand in a sunbeam inside. And the ability to just I'm a consultant and I work from home all the time now, but for the odd trip. And so after 5 hours of Zoom meetings, standing next to a window changes the entire trajectory of a day.
Well, and also you had those track lighting in the living area too, so that had to be, it's probably so nice now to have the hi hat.
So there's a line that was said in the episode that here's the inside scoop.
Okay, gimme.
My wife fed me this line, and now people tell me this all the time. They're like, oh, that line you said that when I said track lighting is an abomination. I was actually quoting when I said that. It sounds very much like that was my
I was impressed.
But,
well, that was, we saw the house when we were shopping.
Yes.
Right? And I think in the debrief it was, what do you think? Well, that track lighting's gotta go. I don't know when we're gonna do it, but it's gotta go.
Another thing that I really loved about the show, first of all, was your office and all the musical instruments, and then the second thing was watching your mom put out. How did that happen?
Yeah, so that was fun. So what we did was in the pantry, we created space for a countertop and a backsplash. And the tile that we put on the backsplash was actually left over from a renovation that my parents did.
Oh my gosh.
In the house that I grew up in.
Wow.
So we had this sitting around, and God bless my mom. She had it trucked to me. The house is in Missouri.
No way.
So they had friends who were driving to Queens, and I was living in Manhattan at the time. So they gave them these 2 boxes of tile to drive, almost, not quite across the country, but for someday for me to have.
That's an amazing
that I might
story.
use one day.
Unbelievable.
So that was probably about 10 years ago. So the tile had been through 1-2 moves at that point, and I just said, I got to do something with this tile. And of course, when we told my parents that we were doing the renovation, my mom said, oh, so you're going to use the tile? And it wasn't pressure, but she was just asking. And I said, maybe, we don't know. That's the finishes. And on Camille's spreadsheet, it's last. We had windows to order and everything else.
Yeah.
So when it came time to do the kitchen and the pantry, because I was just looking for spaces to use a tile, and the pantry made the most sense. So when we were planning out, scenes, because we in the Friday calls, we talked about what we might do coming up, and I had proposed it early on, and it worked out, made sense. My parents flew out here from Chicago. That's
so
where they
you
are
said,
now.
"Can I have my mom come out and do the
be
work?"
in a scene
Oh,
and
that was
do the
so
tile scene.
great.
Yeah. So we thought options were, we talked about doing it with Zack, doing it with Tommy, ended up doing it with Tommy. So that was great.
Yeah, that was great. And another scene that I really loved was it was Maggie O'Neill walking through and explaining all of the historic details of our town. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And also, for those of you who have not seen it, or even for those of you who have seen the show, there's so much footage of Ridgewood, which just tickled me because, they've got drone footage. They have people driving through town. It's just great. And Ridgewood looks mighty good, I might say. One of the other things about Ridgewood that I loved that was featured is one of my favorite places, the James Rose Center. And I have to tell you that Dean has requested to be on this show multiple times, and for whatever reason, we haven't been able to have him on. And so now just talk as long as you want about the James Rose Center and what inspired you to go there and pull things from that place and bring them to your home.
Well, one of the things that's really visible in all of that aerial footage that you talked about is how walkable Ridgewood is as a town.
Yeah,
and I actually just got that
true.
call this morning with somebody who's like, "I watched an episode. You live in the most walkable town." And I said,
Yes.
that's one of the things that Kay and I love the most is in season, not always when it's 20 degrees, but in
Yes,
season,
true. Yes.
taking a walk at night.
Yeah.
And as we were doing that, we kept passing the James Rose Center, not really knowing anything about it. And we actually were kind of like peering
Like,
in
what
the
is
back. Trying to figure out what and someone came out and said, would you like to see the center? And when we went inside, I thought, like,
This is
this
amazing.
is like having a Frank Lloyd Wright
Exactly,
in your town. Or this is like the Russell Wright House that's up on 9D in New York. It's like that, but it just wasn't really as known in that sense. So when we were thinking about, they asked us, what do you love about Ridgewood? And one of the things that popped to mind was the James Rose Center. And then Jen was so much fun to work with in the landscaping on the show.
Oh, she looked like, she's
fantastic. And so we were talking about, like, what would we do in the yard? And one of the things that kind of came to mind was James Rose was a pioneer in adapting Zen principles to Northeast American flora. And then I happened to be in Japan twice last year.
Oh, cool.
So and bookended the business stuff with some stops in Kyoto. So
I did say to Jen, he's going to Japan. Just watch out when he comes back.
So it was true. He's like,
we're gonna have a
he's gonna
geisha
want
girl in the corner.
And then the second time, actually, Kay and I were able to go together. We had business separate reasons to be there, but we went together and we spent a weekend in Kyoto beforehand. So we just walked around looking at things and kind of just brought back. I've got those framed bookcases that are conceptually a bit like shoji screens in framing that view. And that view will evolve over the next few years as the maple that we planted grows and things like that. But that was really drawn from the perspective of what James Rose did here. Because you look at a lot of those picture books sometimes and you think, that's amazing, but I can't do that here.
Right.
But he really showed that you can.
Oh, he was such a rebel.
Such a rebel.
Oh, yeah. He disregarded any kind of...
and building code as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He just... I mean, you take your life in your own hands when you go upstairs, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And the principle that we really loved, and that really is in our bedroom and kitchen, especially that addition, is blurring the line between the inside and the outside.
Love
so
that.
The kitchen and the bedroom both move closer to this dogwood that we have in the backyard.
Yes.
And that makes you feel like when you open the windows, you're really...
in a treehouse.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, and it
And,
felt like that, especially before the windows went in.
Yeah. A couple of the boys across the street said that we should put in a pool and a platform to dive off of in there. And we considered it for a moment, but
And then you decided the liability. You
Their
can't do that.
parents might not like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
after
yeah,
that.
for sure. Well, is that where the water feature idea came from then?
it is where the water feature idea came from. I mean, Jen said, I love these fountains here. And I said, yeah, I love them too. Kay wasn't on this shoot, by the way. So I said, yeah, I love them too. And she said, you guys should have a fountain. And I said, can we have a fountain? She's like, ask me that on camera. And I was like, where's Kay? I should ask Kay this question. So then we kind of had a conversation about it, and we got into the idea of like core drilling a boulder. So Kay loves boulders, and boulders had come up early with Jen. Jen loves boulders. And then it was like, well, what if we made a boulder into a fountain? And so that was, as noted in the show, not in the original plans. So we had to, Zack had to think through running electrical out to that. But in the end, it's really nice to have the flow of stones back there.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love how the stones are all encircle the big boulder. And Zack, the thing that was really impressive was that light switch. Like, I mean, how much that was ingenious. Tell us more about that.
Oh, that's like a secret weapon. You know, if there's a lot. We bought a house recently, and we didn't gut it, so we have a lot of those switches as well. But basically, it's a remote control,
It's
so you can
amazing.
put it anywhere.
Yeah.
You don't need any wire, and the battery lasts 10 years, and it's about $70.
I mean, you can't beat it. It's
Yeah.
right next to the regular switch, and it looks exactly like a traditional switch. So I want to ask you, what are some of the differences between renovating a typical house and then renovating one for this old house?
Why don't you tackle that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's there's some complexities that come along with it. I think we have to be very mindful of our timeline, and that's both a good thing and a complicated thing. It means that we know exactly when we're going to finish the job, and that there really isn't any wiggle room there, because the show has a schedule that we work out with them ahead of time, and we have to all be planning for that wrap date. Luckily, we do hold ourselves to timelines in general. So we do have to pad that out when we're working with this old house, because there are shoot days and there are things that they are going to need to capture on camera that maybe we would have done in conjunction with another part of the project, but we might have to slow things down in order to capture all those important pieces of the story. So we found that adding, an extra couple of weeks will kind of help that. But yeah, we have a lot of fun. It's great. I think the best part about it so far has been having our trade partners and our team members really showcased on the show, and seeing their talents and getting everybody to really witness what magic they make.
I completely agree. And I also, with that, I want to point out that some of the vendors that you use right here in Ridgewood, you have linked them to the show. And so have any of them gotten back to you to come in and, want to do a feature, like a magazine feature? What is the feedback been from some of those people?
I don't know if we've gotten any feedback. I mean, this old house until recently had their own magazine, so it's sort of this project can't be published anywhere but within that sort of franchise.
I gotcha.
There was one newspaper article, right?
But I mean, in general, like, I talked to a homeowner in Norwood recently, and he said, I've paused every part of the show, and I've written down the numbers of every single one of your trade partners, and I've called them all, and
that's great.
So hopefully they get some exposure and some notoriety, maybe some business out of it.
Yes, that's what we hope.
But they're certainly extremely competent, and they're the only reasons where we're able to take the credit for the whole thing.
Right. Well, I can imagine. I mean, this old house, they're not going to just take anyone. They're going to take very seasoned professionals. And so, Camille, the only thing that I have to say is you have to show up in more of on camera footage. I mean, you just do, because you're so good at it.
Oh, thank you.
Is that something that you aspire to?
I think you'll see more of me as time goes on.
I'm glad to hear that. That's terrific. So, Kay and Peter, what have your neighbors and the village, how have they responded to your renovation? And now that it's almost done, I have to be honest, I drove by there yesterday, and I love that brown mixed with the dark, bold blue. And it really blends in beautifully to the neighborhood.
Wonderful.
That was my opinion. Has everyone shared that? Have you gotten any feedback from neighbors?
We, so first, thank you, because our goal really was to honor the neighborhood in the front. And as Jeff had with that Montclair house that we saw in the beginning. Right. Shout out to our neighbor Kyle across the street, who's a graphic designer. Kyle's opinion's been very important to us the entire time. So like, hey, what do you think?
What do you think of this color? Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was really nice when he saw how some things went together and enjoyed that, and that was great. I will say the neighbors reacted also with a lot of patience, and we're
I'm
grateful
sure.
to our neighbors. We have a really warm block there. We all know each other. Everybody passes out, cookies or something around the holidays to each other. It's really lovely in
Yeah.
that sense. But there was a lot of trucks on the street for a lot of
Sure.
months, and we had a
Yeah.
lot of really kind patience from our neighbors.
Although I will say, Zack and his crew, as well as This Old House crew, made sure that they always parked on the same side of the street. So you had, one line
Open
of
side,
cars,
yeah.
and you didn't have to be weaving through two cars. I think Kyle in particular, our neighbor, sort of not directly across the street, but kitty corner, his office faces their front yard.
Your
So-
office.
His office.
His office.
Yeah.
His office. So he would see everything.
Oh,
that
every
was
day
going
he was
on,
seeing it. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and he'd Richard from the show would come by and he'd say hi, hello, and he'd kind of monitor what was going on. So I think they had fun with it too.
It's a wild experience.
We got to introduce Richard to Kathleen and Joe, our next door neighbors, which was fun too.
Right.
And yeah, it was nice. And everybody kind of got a little walk through afterwards, and a lot of the
Well, I was
neighborhoods
gonna
able
ask
to
you
come
that,
to the wrap
yeah.
party for that. And if they weren't able to, we gave everybody a little walk through
Yeah.
when we could as well.
Okay, so that's what I was going to find out now. So, because this final episode is coming up, it's going to be aired on what day?
It actually, so on This Old House Insider, it aired last night.
Oh, darn, I missed it. Okay.
No, but this weekend.
Okay.
We haven't watched it. Peter wanted to watch it last night. I said no. Because that means it'll be over.
Yeah. Oh, because so that means it
I'm
was
not
a
ready
really-
for that yet.
I
Yeah, and
love
it's
that.
too late in the evening, and I'm just gonna go to bed.
It was a really wonderful experience. Like Zack and Camille and Zack's team is a wonderful group of people to work with. This Old House group is a wonderful group of people to work with who came out of an era of television that was reaching for the best of what we could be. We learned, I didn't know that the founder of This Old House was also the founder of the Julia Child show.
No way. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that's
What a
that
legacy.
Julia Child, Mr. Rogers era of what we're reaching for as people, and they're still doing it. And part of honoring the craft of every individual on the work site is a part of that, and helping the audience learn. And we still learn from watching the episodes, things about our house. And I just feel like that's part of the best of what media can produce. And it was a
for
really warm
sure.
experience to be with
Yeah.
good people as a small part of that.
Well, I mean, the whole experience, just watching it, really makes me want to renovate my house. So how, Zack and Camille, is there any way you can pull some strings? Maybe I can get my house on This Old House.
Send us your plans.
Okay, I got to be in touch with Jeff, I guess, and make that work. So, as we wrap up this taping, I would like to know from each of you, what was the most memorable part? Like when you, in 5 years from now, when you look back on this experience, you'll say, "Oh, remember that time?" If you can retrieve one of those or two of those memories, what are they? And I'm going to go with Zack first.
Oh man, to pick just one, but I think one moment that sort of sums up what this experience was like with Peter and Kay. I'm singling them out because we did a house previously with This Old House before this one. Was I was giving, I don't remember what it was. Maybe Camille can tell me, but I was giving Peter and Kay rather bad news about something, and of course I didn't want to do that. And the way Peter took it was just incredible. Like, disappointed, get it, these things happen, no problem. And it just really speaks to the success of our project, the success of our business is working with people like that, who give us slack, who trust us, who will let us, be good stewards of their money, of their house, of their health. And that's what this job was a collaboration. And in that moment, Peter made it really easy, and that's rare. People can be mean.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful to get to work with them.
That's so sweet. And how about you, Camille?
Well, you made it You made such a nice statement, but I was gonna go with the mustaches.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was hilarious. That was hilarious.
Yeah. I think pranking Tom Silva with the mustaches was very memorable, and he seemed very touched by it too. And
Yeah.
what you didn't get to see in the show is that Peter also had a mustache.
Peter had the
That
best
was-
mustache.
Oh
of
my
the group.
God, that's hysterical.
Yeah. So
Oh, that was
we should show
very
that
funny.
photo.
And you walked out there like so nonchalant. It was hilarious. How about you, Peter?
I'd have to say something that Kay and I say to each other often, which is, "Where is everybody?" That's my memory.
Oh.
It's so Zach actually popped by a week and a half ago, I think it was, to work on, and he was like checking on something, and then he just fixed something while he was there. And we're like, "Well, this feels right," because we're used to this
Yeah.
space involving other people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when you're there alone, you're like, but wait a minute, isn't
Right.
somebody? Shouldn't I be hearing a hammer?
Yeah, totally that. So
Yeah.
we actually missed the whole crew.
Oh, I love that. That's so rare. I mean,
Right?
you hear of like, what was that show with Michael Douglas? And it was the show where they were renovating the house and they got a divorce because the workmen were coming there. You know, like that, you usually hear stories where people are torn apart, and you guys just grew close together like a big old family. What about you, Kay?
Mine is a surprise, actually. So having watched the episodes, because we knew, every time that the crew, this Old House crew was in town filming, we weren't there all the time, right? Because we didn't need to be there. It was about the work mostly. And watching the show, what I didn't realize was how much work Kevin O'Connor did on our house.
Oh, I guess he did. He really did. Like he had his little nose in everywhere.
He built those stairs
Yeah,
with
I mean,
Kaylin. But
Kaylin, Zach, and Kevin
he
built
did
those
that.
stairs, yeah.
He fixed the joists in the bathroom on the second floor,
Yeah.
and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that was fun to find out.
That's
And should also say with that, super fun to see Kevin's New Jersey. If anybody hasn't watched, they go back to his old high school.
Oh yeah.
He's down at LBI.
Yes, I did see that.
A lot of
yes.
good Jersey.
Yeah,
roots.
that was really, really great. You guys, this has been so much fun. When is the next reunion, and can I come?
We'll figure that out and we'll invite you.
Yeah, I would love that. This has really been so amazing for all of y'all and for our town. So thank you for making room for us, finding time to come on our little show after your big national stars. You come on our little show. I really appreciate it, and I wish all the best to you, Zack and Camille, with your business, and for you, Peter Neal Field, or what? No, it's Peter Douglas Field. Sorry, Peter Douglas Field and Kay. Thank you so much for coming by, and many happy years in your home. That's what I wish for you.
Thanks,
Thank you very,
Jeannie.
very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
my
it.
pleasure. So
Thank you.
this is Jeanne Johnson closing off for Ridgewood Talks. I want you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you would, please subscribe to the podcast on all the major platforms, again, with video on YouTube and Spotify. And don't forget, this is produced by Ignite Creator Studios right here in Ridgewood. They do video podcasting and content strategy for businesses and services. So Zack and Camille, if you need any podcasting, let us know. And again, we're located in Ridgewood. Again, thanks so much to our guests and everyone. Thank you so much for watching this and tuning in. Have a good one. See ya.